Space, the final frontier. Join us for a bold conversation. Our prime directive? To recap our favorite Star Trek shows, both new and old. To engage in debate about all things Trek. Prepare to energize with phasers set to stun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Phasers Set to Stun, where we continue to show our love for everything Star Trek in this ongoing series from a Film by Podcast, which focuses on every quadrant of the expanding universe of Trek by covering television, animation, movies, directors, and so much more. Plotting the course, as always, is your core Trek crew. I'm David Burns.
I'm Scott Hoffman.
And I'm Wayne Whited.
On this episode, we are going to do something a little different than we have done in other episodes. We're going to dive into some of our favorite toys over the years from Star Trek. I know a lot of us here have some fond memories of collecting and playing with the items we're going to discuss today. At least, I know I do. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Star Trek toys. Gentlemen, what was the first Star Trek toy released? Do you guys know?
Not a clue.
I think it was the Star Trek action figures from Mego.
Yes.
That would be my guess, yeah.
Yes.
In 1974?
Yep, you're correct.
Oh, it is. It was, okay.
Yep, it absolutely is.
Does that mean there was no Star Trek toys back when the show was airing? That's kind of surprising. Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I remember seeing something on Netflix has a great documentary series, The Toys That Made Us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think predating actual toys, I think there may have been model kits.
Yes, there were.
That you could do for the ships, but in terms of playable quality kind of things, it was Mego that broke ground on it. And they were a monster back in the 70s.
They absolutely were
big.
a monster. Yeah.
Wow.
I think this was one of their best-selling lines, too. Of that decade, anyway, was the Star Trek figures. Because, you didn't have any, and everybody wanted them because it was a popular series back in the 60s. So it makes sense.
And they look good. They look good.
Absolutely. So the next one that I want to talk about is kind of funny. As we all know, every line of Star Trek, every line of toys has some kind of thing that just doesn't fit. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't go with a movie. It doesn't go with a series. You're scratching your head as, what the hell were they thinking when they made this? So let's talk a little bit about some of the ridiculous Star Trek toys. I have 3 of them. So the first one is clearly the AHI Star Trek helmet with Spock written on it, which is the Space Fun helmet, guys, produced in 1976. When you look at this thing, you're like, this has nothing to do with Star Trek. Why?
Yeah. There was a lot of they called it label slapping.
Yes.
Back in the day, and I think because there was that kind of void of official licensed figures and things like that, they figured they could just put Star Trek on anything. The helmet you're talking about is such a big mashup of things. It has like a red rotating light on the top. It just says Spock across the forehead. I think it has a Star Trek logo on the side and a visor.
Yeah, and a visor.
It's the kind of thing that I feel like if it wasn't on Lower Decks, it's bound to be in a Lower Decks movie of a whole planet full of people that just have their names on their foreheads and giant flashing lights.
I can't believe that hasn't happened yet, to be honest with you. It
I
should
know.
By now.
I know.
That would be great. So the other one, which I scratched my head with, is Star Trek Skydiving Parachutist, featuring non-posable figures of Spock and Kirk. Released in 1974 by the same company who did the helmet, AHI. Did you guys see these things? They are horrendous looking.
Yeah, it's your typical kind of, wad up the little cellophane parachute, throw it into the air, and then it floats down quicker than you want it to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It just, again, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
So Remco was apparently a pretty big label slapper back when they were doing things. They would just have like a, There was like a toy rifle. I think there was a disc shooter and things like that. Nothing that looked like it had anything to do with the series. And there was this defunct line that they had called Hamilton Invaders. There was a bunch of aliens that would, bug type aliens like Starship Troopers kind of things.
Okay.
And then they would have the army figures, like little plastic army men. But they just made them red. So you had like Scotty with a bazooka, I guess.
Sure, makes sense.
And rifles and walkie-talkies and all this other kind of stuff. So it just made no sense. They would just do whatever they could to grab some cash.
Hysterical. And speaking of guns, I wrote down a water gun in the shape of the original USS Enterprise. Again, released by AHI.
But shaped like the Enterprise?
Shaped like the Enterprise.
I mean, did it come out of a phaser bank?
I mean, come on.
You think about it.
Looking up this company, they went bankrupt, and I can see why.
Yeah.
Not smart decisions in some of their toys, I can tell you for sure. No,
not at all, and definitely not what Star Trek fans would want.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. Well, of course, with us talking about toys, we must talk about our favorite toy store here in Cincinnati, and of course, we are talking about the House of Plastic Toys and Collectibles, and our good friend, the owner, Jerome. We asked him a few questions just to see what he thought about some of these Star Trek toys. So we asked him, what is the rare Star Trek toy that has come across his counter? He only had a couple examples. One of them wasn't a toy, but he said he got some cool vintage 45s of Star Trek that had come across his counter. But he said he got a vintage 70s phaser that came across that went for a pretty good amount of money. He said he doesn't remember exactly what style, but he says it was I'm assuming it's the same phaser that was in the 60s TV series. But he said it sold quite well. I asked him what he thought the most popular Star Trek toys he sells, and he immediately said, and you guys I'm sure are going to agree with this, the Playmates line, because they're cheap and legitimately need just about every damn character in every episode. So he said those fly off the shelf pretty good for him. And then I asked him what his favorite Star Trek toy was, and he said it was the 1993 Playmates Bridge of Enterprise D. I don't know if I'm sure you guys are aware of this toy. It includes like sounds, hailing frequency, photon torpedoes, warp drive, tractor beam, and red alert sounds. It's got some light features, a computer and illuminated view screen with phaser hits, and of course it has all the seating for ops, con, command, and aft stations, tactical standing, with a working tactical console. I do remember this. I never owned this. I don't know about you guys. I thought it was pretty cool, but I don't remember buying this.
I've never owned it, but I do want it. It is cool. It was a cool set.
It's pretty popular in the secondary market too, I believe.
It is, and goes for a pretty expensive price. I mean, not incredible, but you're gonna pay a couple $100 for it.
Yeah. Well, it looks pretty cool. I looked it up. I was like, holy crap! Why did I not own this?
Yeah.
But all right, well, guys, I know we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite Star Trek toys, but before we do that, let's take a brief break. And then we come back, we will start our countdown. Welcome back, everybody, to our discussion here at Phaser Set to Stun. We are talking about our 10 favorite Star Trek toys. Now, these are not in any order. We're not saying that these are, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in that order of being the best. But we are talking about what we think are our favorite Star Trek toys that we've owned or that we know about over the years. Scott, I'm going to let you start us off with number 10.
Yeah, so at number 10, we're talking about something that people have probably seen in an episode of Big Bang Theory. It's the mega scale Star Trek transporter room.
Yep.
So this one specifically, it just has this clever mechanism to it. You basically take one of these 8-inch fully articulated characters and stand them up in what looks like a transporter pad, and you spin a knob at the top, and when you press a button, it stops, and then the figure has magically disappeared. It's kind of a variation on, I think it's the Magician's Cabinet, is kind of a magic trick that it's based on. It was part of the Enterprise bridge, which is interesting because it had, the bridge itself kind of doubled as a carrying case, apparently, for the figures. So a mega new Mego knew what they were doing.
They did.
Something I found that was interesting about this is apparently, so after this was released in 76, a company called Palitoy used that and repurposed it as a modified version of a TARDIS for Doctor Who figures.
Oh, Wayne,
So
look at you.
little crossover.
It's funny, I never made that connection, but you're right. Yep.
So it's a cool effect. The design of it has a lot of those kind of wavy lines, like a Steve Is it Steve Ditko that did all? Oh no, is it who did all those Agents of Shield covers where it had all that trippy kind of wavy lines?
Oh, Sterenko.
Steranko, thank you.
That was yeah, Sterenko.
So it had that kind of. It reminds me of that kind of pattern that it had to it. But I don't know, it was a cool toy for the simplicity of the design. I think it was a clever idea.
It is. And just don't break it like they did on the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Or just don't open it. But
Just don't open
whatever
it.
you want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, don't go down that road. Great episode, though. Good choice. Good choice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 9, Wayne.
That would be the Mego Star Trek The Motion Picture action figures that were released in 1979. They were 3 3/4 quarter figures, the same size as G.I. Joe, and they released figures of Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Ilea, Decker, and Scotty, along with an assortment of aliens, including the Klingon, the Rigelian, Octurian, the Betelgeusian, Zeranite, and the Megern. Well, they didn't make this easy for the kids to pronounce these alien names.
Yeah, what was the third one? Can you go back to that?
That would have been.
I heard Beetlejuice somewhere.
Yeah, there were there. Well, yeah,
Don't
it was,
say it
it was
again.
something like
It'll
that.
be here.
Megarite was the last one I was trying to pronounce. But the thing is these figures, many of them were not available here in the U.S. These aliens that I just tried to mention were only available either from Canada or Italy, or you could buy them in a 3-pack from the J.C. Penney's Christmas catalog. But you're going to pay a pretty penny for them. It's a pity because these are really actually nice figures. They're using the new style O-ring that was just introduced that year by Mego, which we would be very familiar with the G.I. Joe line that would come up a few years later. And plus, it had play sets. They had the motion picture bridge play set, which was made out of a vacuum form plastic. It's really, really hard to find this in good shape because it became over 40 some years now. It's very brittle and has a fragile plastic. Plus, they did some 12-inch figures. Kirk, Spock, Ilea, Decker, and Klingon. Those are pretty common to find, but it's a great series. But it wasn't very successful on Mego's end. So they, after years of being associated with Star Trek, they ended their contract with them. And even 10 years later, you can still find these figures in like your local Kmart or Hills department store. But looking back, they are a really nice addition to the Star Trek figure line.
Yeah, they didn't use a really good plastic back then for some of these toys. So, and we're paying the price later on. If you find one in good condition, absolutely grab it because you're right. I know that's pretty brittle and a lot of them didn't last.
Yeah, and they also have the problem with the O-rings, a problem that a lot of G.I. Joe collectors are having nowadays. The little rubber band that's inside of them, it does not last for 40 to 50 years, and it deteriorates, and then you find them, even though they're still on the card, you'll find the figures in pieces.
Yeah, and how heartbreaking is that?
It is.
Especially if it's men on card. Oof, ouch.
I know.
That's so heartbreaking. Surprisingly, a lot of my G.I. Joes are still holding together. A couple of them have already broke, but it's expected, I suppose.
Yeah, it's easy to replace those O-rings, though. But it isn't if they're still on the card. But
right.
I've had to replace a few of mine, and I've had to replace. I do have some of the motion picture figures, and
Nice.
I've had to replace almost all of my O-rings on it.
They used
Very
that
cool.
same style for the black hole figures, right?
They did.
Yes, that's right.
They sure did.
Yeah.
They
That's kind of a
almost
shame.
said that.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that didn't last because didn't they kind of back off of making figures right in time for Wrath of Khan, which is a shame because if we had
Yeah, they
those
did, 'cause-
Mego style for Wrath of Khan, that would have been fantastic.
That would have.
Well, I mean, you look. They did Star Trek. They did Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, and Black Hole all at the same time. And unfortunately, none of those were really that big of a success for them. And I think that's why they backed off.
And some of those are worth a pretty penny today.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Wish I had some. All right, number 8. That is the Playmates Star Trek The Next Generation Starfleet Tricorder, the TR-560, released in 1993. Playmates obviously did a lot of the figures that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But they did start doing some other items, and the tricorder was one that I remember buying and playing the crap out of because we didn't have very many tricorders, and this was not that expensive at that time. It has lights and sounds, replicates exactly the handheld scanner from the Next Generation that you see on screen. It was completely different than the tricorder that we saw in the original series. So it came with the blue technical blueprints. I believe I still have my blueprints, but I have no idea what has happened to my tricorder. Which, as Wayne knows, I've been looking for. Every time we go to conventions, I'm looking for a tricorder and a phaser to add to my collection. And I would like to find this one, to be honest with you, because I really like this one. I enjoy just opening it up and with the lights and the sounds and stuff that you get from it. It was very fun to have in my collection. I've not really looked to see how expensive it is today, but I do know it was enjoyable to play with. I don't know if either one of you guys own this, but it was pretty cool.
I did not have one. The closest that I got to it may have been from Suncoast. I had like the little keychain version.
Okay.
That just had the lid that flipped down. It would do the usual like scanning sound, and then that's it. But then the bottom half of the jaw or whatever broke off. So
yeah. Still pretty cool though.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
they are.
Number 7, Scott.
Number 7 is from Galoob. Produced in 1993. We're going to talk about the Micro Machines Star Trek line, which is one of my favorite Star Trek toys. Micro Machines were a line made by Galoob back in '87. They were popular through the '90s. They had a lot of licenses like Alien and Star Wars. But in 1993, they dove into Star Trek. Went all the way through 1997. And the first releases were these 3-packs in transparent bubbles. They were, I think it's 1 to 3900th scale. So super tiny, but incredibly detailed. It's all in plastic, but very well painted. I have a big collection here that still holds up really, really well, and a great range of ships. I was only aware of the ones that went through the movies and the Next Generation, but they dove into Deep Space Nine, they dove into Voyager, a lot of different ships that you could go into. And if you were interested in kind of crossover playability, if you had ships from things like Babylon 5, Starship Troopers, Star Wars, Alien, they're compatible scales. So I think for Galoob and some of the other things that they had done that we'll talk about a little bit later, I think it's a very satisfying version of these toys, of these ships, that's really accessible, that still holds up.
I agree. It's a good line.
It's
funny, I never collected those. I collected everything else on this list, but I never got those. But boy, do I remember the commercials back in the 90s, watching X-Men. Boy, you couldn't miss those Micro Machine commercials.
I had a few of those, I remember, but I didn't collect very many for some reason.
My first set is still my favorite. It was a set that had a Klingon bird of prey, the Excelsior, and the Reliant. So you've got Undiscovered Country, you've got Wrath of Khan, and we've talked before about our love for Undiscovered Country and Wrath of Khan.
Yep.
So I had basically held on to those 3 for the longest time, and then recently when we were at one of these shows, I saw they had a big collector's set that had the All Good Things version of the Enterprise included with it, and it was $40, which got me like 20 ships, including Deep Space Nine itself.
Nice.
So not a bad deal. If you're looking for, hard to find kind of miniature scale, it's worth a grab.
Good deal. All right, Wayne, give us number 6.
And number 6 is kind of a little bit of a sidestep from toys, but this is the Star Trek role-playing game by Faza Enterprises. Now, everybody knows what a role-playing game is. Everybody's familiar with Dungeons & Dragons. And Faza was most popular most remembered for releasing the BattleTech role-playing game back in the 80s. But they branched out and got the Star Trek license in 1982 and released their first edition of Star Trek, the role-playing game. It was a tactical combat game that where you had this map, a grid, and you simulated your battles between ships. It's a great game. I loved it. I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. I played Star Trek and Marvel superheroes, but those were the role-playing games that I loved playing with my friends growing up. And then they would come out with many different supplement manuals and campaigns that you could purchase to expand your game. They both, when Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 4 came out, they released source book updates for those. And plus, there were also lots of different miniature starships, very similar to the micro machines, that could be used on the grid board during the play. And they advertised those heavily as well. You could see the ads for those on the back of almost every sci-fi magazine that was released back in the 80s. And then in 1988, FASA released the first two supplements for Star Trek: The Next Generation. The first was the hefty Officer's Manual, which allowed the player to use the starships, the aliens, and the equipment from the series. And then shortly after that, they released the Next Generation first year source book, which brought the characters and the scenarios from the first season of the show. Now, the reason I wanted to bring those up, because they're important, is that FASA quickly discovered that their license with Paramount only covered the original series and not the Next Generation. And unfortunately, they were forced to pull and pulp all copies of those two books.
Oops.
Yeah.
No dear.
The Officer's Manual was out for a few months, but the first year source book was pulled from the shelves within a week of its release. I was very lucky because right at that time was when I discovered comic book stores, and I remember it being on the shelf, and I bought it then, and I probably was one of the few people that actually had a copy of that. You can still find them. You can never find them in good condition, but they are out there. But Paramount was very, very unhappy with this unlicensed release, and wasn't even willing to negotiate anymore. So they pulled the license from FASA, and that was the end of the games in 1989.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a pity because I would love to have seen them expand more, especially for Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. But also, too, back then when these games came out, you just had the original series, and then you had a couple of the movies. So you got to realize that if anybody today is discovering these games, the continuity for Star Trek is very, very different that they created from what we know today. I mean, it's got the Klingon history is completely different. They use a very strange system for star dates, and they also have something called the Federation Marines that goes along Starfleet, like troops for planetary assaults. It's a great universe that they put together, but it is not the Star Trek universe that we know today, but it's still a lot of fun to play.
I don't remember too much about that game at all. I looked it up when I saw that you mentioned it, but I didn't play that game.
It's a shame they weren't able to negotiate, because it seems to be tailor-made to this audience.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a pity too, because FASA did finally fold in around 2000, because they did some great games. They also did the Doctor Who role-playing game, which I discovered around the same time. They were a lot of fun, in my opinion, a lot better than Dungeons and Dragons too.
It's a bold statement, Wayne.
Yeah. We look forward to your comments.
Oof. All right.
Rolling the dice with that comment.
All right. Number 5, that is the Playmates. Going back to Playmates again, they pop up a lot in our list, it seems. Is Star Trek: The Next Generation Enterprise D, that was released in 1992. I don't know if you guys had this ship, but this was freaking cool as crap. It featured 4 different sounds that were activated by pressing a button just under the main saucer. It was extremely well done and detailed as an Enterprise ship. Each box was numbered and labeled as a collector's edition. Even the size of it, I don't know what scale it was, but it was a pretty good, big Enterprise. Better than some of the models. I was not a model guy. I know there's some really good models out there, and if you're Wayne, I know you bought some of them and detailed some of them. But I was not very good at it. But this one filled in that void for me because I was not a model builder. This one was just a really cool toy. Even if you didn't play with it, it looks really good on the shelf. And I know I've seen a few of them at conventions. I don't know what the price goes for them now, but I'm tempted to buy it again because it is a really cool looking toy.
You can still find them for pretty cheap, and they released a lot of different ships. I didn't have the Enterprise, but I had the Romulan Warbird.
Oh, nice.
You can still find them probably for around $30-$40.
That's not bad at all then.
No.
That's worth buying and putting in my collection. So, all right. We're looking for that when we go to the next convention, Wayne. You hear me?
All right. I'll keep my eyes open.
All right.
I think somewhere Jerome is making a list to be like, okay.
He is. He's going to list this. All right. This is what he wants. This is what he wants. Okay.
Santa Claus for Dave. Here we go.
All right. Number 4. Scott and Wayne, I believe.
Next on the list is the Playmates Star Trek Next Generation action figure line. This went from 92 to 94, I believe it was.
Actually, it was. They continued to 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, that was a long run.
Long run.
This had a very extensive run, Dave, as you mentioned, like a lot of characters, all the way to Tom Paris as a salamander, I think.
Yep.
The two that I had that were my favorites were Locutus, complete with one of the Borg emblem from the Descent episodes, and Guinan, that came with a complete tray of, there's like a 3D chess, and she had like
Nice.
a tray for drinks that she couldn't hold for whatever reason. But hyper detailed, hyper extensive in terms of the range of people that they covered. And I think that's the same line with the infamous Riker figure, or is that the other series from Galoob?
That was the
Galoob
other
series.
series. Yeah.
Right. We'll get to that later. But Wayne, what did I miss?
But I mean, I collected this series like crazy. I had so many of the figures because there were so many great figures released. I mean, figures that you never thought you'd ever get figures of, like Ensign Rowe and Picard and Guinan, and Beverly in their Dixon Hill outfits, Barclay, Jeff's favorite character, Dr. Pulaski, Garrick, Harry Mudd. All these characters were great, but. And probably the best set of this entire line was the box set that had all 7 of the original series characters in it, and the box was set up to look like the Enterprise bridge. It was just
cool.
an incredible set. But all those figures that they released, so many different of them. We never got the original series characters in their movie uniforms, with the exception of like Kirk and Chekhov from Generations. They never released any of them in their movie uniforms, and that was, we all wanted those.
That seems kind of strange they didn't do that.
Yeah, we did get a Savick, a Kirstie Alley Savick figure, but that's the only one in their movie line. They did release them in their motion picture outfits, though.
Of course.
I don't know where they made that decision, but it was a great series. It ran for a long time. The last wave or two of the series was Target exclusives. You can see when they were winding down, and it's a pity that they ended because that was when they were releasing the Next Generation characters in their First Contact uniforms.
Oh, cool.
And we never did get a full set of those. We never did get a LaForge or a Troy, I believe, are the 2 figures that we were missing from those. But the last figure that they ever released was 7 of 9, so we didn't get that one.
No. I know if you go into House of Plastic, he has a gigantic wall full of Playmate figures. He really
there
does.
are hundreds of characters. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then they re-released those, right? Or at least like one of those vintage kind of reboot lines for the Playmates figures.
That's right. A few years ago they did, but they added new figures because they added characters from Discovery as well. And we did get, I forgot about it, I'm glad you brought that up. We did finally get a Kirk and a Spock in their movie uniforms, their Star Trek II uniforms, but unfortunately those didn't sell very well, so they never decided to continue it on. And now someone else, a company called Nacelle, has the license to release those figures.
Very cool.
So there's a giant wall at House of Plastic?
Yes. Of these kind of figures. So if you want to start your collection, go there, because believe me, you will be able to fill in a lot of spaces. I guarantee it.
And there's the bridge, there's the transporter room, you've got engineering set, you've got shuttlecraft runabouts. It's great for play. I mean, you look at all the accessories.
Yeah.
Kids, I don't understand why it didn't go very well with kids, because I mean, I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. If you love Star Trek Next Generation, this was definitely right up your alley. There's no doubt about it. They were knocking out of the park with these figures and ships and stuff like that. So I agree.
I wonder what the kids back in the Mego days would have said about the comparative scale that they got. Like, I think they would have been insanely jealous, considering they got like the not a very extensive line. Probably not the line that they wanted, but
Yeah. Is what it is to this point, I guess.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about number 3, Wayne. I think Scott kind of hinted to this and what was coming.
And that would be the other figure set, the Star Trek The Next Generation's action figures from Galoob. It had been 10 years since there had been any Star Trek action figures, but finally in 1988, Galoob decided they'd take a chance and with the new Star Trek series, and got the toy licensing rights. They released some great figures. These were smaller than G.I. Joe's. These were more of a 3 to 3 1/4 inch figures, but they included Picard, Riker, LaForge, Worf, Data, Tasha Yar, plus Q, Ferengi, and the Antikin and Sele aliens from the episode Lonely Among Us. Plus, there were 2 vehicles with it. We've got the Ferengi Marauder and the shuttlecraft Galileo that you could fit all of the 6 figures inside of it. Then, of course, they also tried a little bit to extend the range with a die-cast metal USS Enterprise that actually separated into 2 parts for some exciting play. And then you got the phaser weapon, something that we would see very familiar with the Playmates, but Galoob did try it first with the little phaser Type 1, so that you can go out, kids could go out there and recreate their favorite Star Trek character by blasting everyone. And again, it was a great wave. I remember when I bought my first figure, which was a Riker figure at Walt Disney World.
That's where it's Riker.
Well, that was the only one that they had on the shelf.
Jonathan, we're so sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Jonathan.
We feel your pain.
If nobody has seen the interview with Jonathan Frakes about his Riker figure and what happened at a convention, that they were giving his figure away for free, please go find the interview, because it is absolutely hysterical as he explains it. It really is.
He's right too, because I also remember there used to be a store back in the late 80s and early 90s out in Denver called Starland, where you could order stuff like that. And they were giving the Riker figure away free with orders, but what they were doing is they were calling it the second season Riker. What they were opening up the pack, taking a marker, putting a beard on it, and sending it out to people.
Wow.
High quality.
Oh, poor Jonathan. We're sorry.
It was a good range. I mean, they did have a second wave planned. They had sculpted and had prototypes made of Romulan and Ensign Wesley Crusher. Plus, they had this incredible bridge play set that looked like the actual Enterprise. And they had a transporter room set that you would set the bridge set on top, and then you would connect an alien landscape set to it. So you had this whole huge play set that you just, you could do anything from. It was an incredible thing, but never was made. They canceled it because of poor sales. And have said that they should have centered their advertising and production towards adult collectors rather than kids, and that's why they think the line failed. But it's still a great series if you want to collect. I've got them all.
Of course you do. I'm not surprised.
How does that scale compare to other more well-known kind of licenses?
It's just slightly smaller. Like I said, it's slightly smaller than G.I. Joe and all the 3 3/4. It's about 3 1/4. It's probably the smallest action figures I've seen that's out there.
Okay.
And I do want to add too, at the end of this, anybody out there that does collect the Galoob or really like the Galoob figures, later this year, there is a small independent company called Multiverse Productions. You'll find them on Etsy. It's a guy out of Indianapolis. He makes some great figures. He does
Oh,
Battlestar
yeah.
Galactica and V figures, and he's done some MASH figures for me. Later this year, he is going to be doing Star Trek: The Next Generation Galoob style figures of the ones that they never released. I know he's got Troy and Beverly Crusher coming out, so you want to check him out on Etsy. The name is Multiverse Productions.
And his stuff looks great. You've shown me some of his work, Wayne. It looks fantastic.
Oh, I love his MASH figure. I mean, I finally got the radar figure I always wanted.
Nice. Well, let's talk about number 2. So, speaking of incredible, and I do mean absolutely incredible versions of characters, you are going to pay the price if you want these figures because they are 1/6 scale. I'll let Wayne talk a lot about this, but this is the XO6 figures that they've been bringing out for a few years now. The quality of these is absolutely stunning. I mean, it looks like a mini version of the person who played them, and it's no lie. Wayne will agree with me on this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the sculpting is incredible on these.
Yeah, this company, has dedicated to producing the most accurate representation of Star Trek characters, and again, in the 1/6 scale format. But I'll let Wayne talk about EXO6.
Yeah, we've got so many different great companies. I know, like Sideshow does Star Wars figures. Well, this is the Star Trek version of that, and they are absolutely beautiful. They really take the time to make sure that the actors' likenesses are perfect, that the accessories are exact, and that the costumes actually, the uniforms actually fit.
They're tailored.
So they look, they're tailored perfect so that they look. Wow. And they have got so many. They started off by releasing First Contact, Picard and Data, but since then they have really taken off. They've released, I believe, everyone so far from both Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You can have the entire crew. They've got so many different ones. I know they've got some from Discovery, and there's many more to come. I know they just released Beverly Crusher.
Yeah,
and Wesley
she looks
Crusher.
Phenomenal, man.
She does, absolutely incredible. And one of my personal favorites, and one that really impressed me, is Valeris from Star Trek VI. That's coming soon. It is absolutely incredible. And of course, there's also Boimler and Mariner from the way they looked in Strange New Worlds. I got those in pre-order, and I can't wait to get those because those both look phenomenal. And they've got a lot more figures to come.
Yep.
They've got the prototypes are out there to see. So many different ones. You got Guinan, O'Brien, Garrick's coming, Worf in the EVA suit from First Contact, that with the light up helmet. I cannot wait for that to come out. And lots of original series. They characters from all the different series that are coming out. They are a little expensive, but they're worth the price.
They are. They are definitely worth the price, and they will look for that. I mean, they're museum quality. That's exactly what they are. And I'm telling you, go look these up because you will be shocked on how amazing they look. It looks like the actor in a mini version. I'm not kidding.
Yes. And they do have plans. They do have plans on releasing the original series crew in their movie uniforms. I am really looking forward to those because I've always wanted figures in this scale in those uniforms.
I'm just happy to see that they've got Dr. Disco McCoy from the motion picture.
Yes, they do.
With his giant medallion and his chest hair and his Grizzly Adams beard.
Yeah.
Holy God.
Oh, yeah.
They're pulling out the stops, man.
Check out General Chang from Undiscovered Country.
Oh, I can't. I can't. I'll lose all my money. I
You
need to not look at it. I need to not know that it exists.
It is a rabbit hole that's difficult to fall down in because it is very expensive, but it's worth it if you're a collector and you have the money. Go for them.
Absolutely, you won't be disappointed. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
I collected Hot Toys for a very long time for Star Wars, and they are amazing to look at.
That's the name of the company I was trying to think of. Hot Toys.
But they were so expensive, I had to stop. I was like, my bank account was like, you can't do this anymore, man. I'm sorry. Spending $200 to $300 per figure. Don't get me wrong, quality phenomenal. You'll never get better quality, except for EXO6 because they have the exact same quality. But you will pay the price.
What does make it easy is that you do pre-order them. You pay $20. You don't have to pay. Well, they don't want you. You're not allowed to pay the whole amount when you first pre-order it. You can only put the $20 down, and then when the figures are produced and in hand, ready to ship, that's when they bill you, and it's usually about 3 to 4 months later. So you have a little bit of time, to save up the money.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the page now, and I'm seeing that they have Boimler from the Strange New Worlds episode.
Yeah.
I feel like if they could just kick in another, if you put in another $25, you get the saddle.
Oh, that would be great.
For him to do the Riker. That would
be
just
awesome.
beautiful.
Yes, it would be beautiful.
Wow.
But you see how phenomenal they look, man. I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I gotta stop looking. I can't keep looking at it. It's like got a gravitational pull to it. I'm just like, I can't look away.
Look at it, right? Exactly. All right, so that brings us down to our last pick, and that for me is again, Playmates, Star Trek: The Next Generation Type 2 phaser. This was released in 1992 by Playmates. They were having a very successful run with all the stuff they were releasing, figures, accessories, and stuff like that. So they released this one. It comes with a blue technical blueprint again, like they have done with some of their other things. This is the one that looks like a remote control. Would you guys agree with that? It does. It's a phaser that looks like a remote control.
Yeah. It's not the Dustbuster. It's the remote control. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Really neat to have. Each box was numbered again as a collector's edition. I love that they did that. I did have this one again. I don't know what happened to my Star Trek toys. I was pretty good about keeping my stuff, but for some reason my Star Trek toys just poof gone. I don't know if somebody transported them away, but they are not here anymore.
You can't keep them in the same box with the transporter. That's what happened.
That's what happened.
You're
right,
beamed
Scott.
away.
There it is. Now I understand what happened to it. But and I am on the look for another one or some kind of phaser to add to my collection. But this was a really nice one too from Playmates. Check it out. I believe you can still get it probably at House of Plastic again. But it's definitely something you should add to a collection because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because it had lights and sounds.
It did.
It was really cool. There was a lot of different. I don't know what you call those different equipment and stuff that you can get from them, and not just the tricorder and the phaser. I remember there was the medical tricorder, there was the Klingon disruptor, the Cardassian tricorder, and the Bajoran tricorder. There's so many different ones. They're all fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a cosplayer, this would go great with that because they looked perfect.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, this is one that I wish I would have picked up when it was in the stores, back when it was accessible.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I still have mine, and it still works. Unlike my tricorder, which it doesn't work anymore, but it still works. You put the batteries on, it'll go. Pew, pew.
Now I know where mine transported it to. It transported to Wayne.
That's right.
I'm taking good care of it.
Good.
I remember seeing something like this that they turned into a remote control, like a universal remote for television sets.
They did have one of those.
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah.
But don't do it. Look away, Scott. Look away.
Look away.
You don't need it.
Look away. Look away.
And there are fancier versions of these things. I mean, you could spend $600 or $700 on some incredible reproductions, but you don't have to. Just go spend $20 and get you the Playmates phaser.
Yeah, that's right. No doubt. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining me for this. It was really nice to talk about some of these Star Trek toys. We don't get to do a lot of these, so it's kind of nice to take a break from talking about the series and the movies and stuff like that, and really talk about some other fun things from Star Trek.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say, definitely check out House of Plastic in Cincinnati, because you're not only going to get a great selection of these kind of things, likely to be able to pick up the ones you've been looking for, but you're also going to get an amazing conversation by somebody who truly loves this, the plastic arts that we've talked about before. Jerome does a great job of keeping a very well curated shop, and he's always great for conversation.
They have a little bit of everything. It's not just Star Trek. They have Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I mean, you walk in and you feel like a kid again. It's incredible. I spend too much money there.
Yeah. He has a lot of hot toys now, thanks to me. So, but that's besides the point. So he's got a lot of things. Yes, absolutely. All right, listeners, what are some of your favorite toys and merchandise from Star Trek? Did we mention them, or did we miss something that caught your eye? Please let us know. You can check us out at www.afilmbypodcast.com for film and TV articles and our entire library streaming free. Write to us at filmbypodcast@gmail.com with your questions, comments, and concerns. We may just read your response on the show and send you some A Film By swag. To all you listening to the show, follow us on social media and subscribing to our Patreon. We thank you. See you next time for another episode of Phasers Set to Stun.
And keep playing with them toys.